Depending on how you view the day. I'm Jordan Sheff. I'm the Commissioner at the Department of Developmental Services. Looking at the invite list, I know a number of you on the call today already, and I look forward to the conversation. We had a number of more registrants than have shown up so far, so we may get additional guests as the conversation proceeds. I'll begin by saying I'm hopeful those of you attending today have taken the time to watch some of the videos that were shared with you as sort of a warm up to this conversation. It will get us away from more from me presenting and you not having an active voice to more of a conversation, I hope. There'll be plenty of time for questions and answers. I do want to take a few minutes just to talk about a couple of things since those videos were produced, or things that were new and exciting here for us at DDS, just to bring you up to speed on a couple of things. Since the community engagement work I did last fall that led to the development of our 5-year plan and some focus for our America Rescue Plan Act initiatives, funding related to the public health emergency that's been afforded to us. We've had a number of things change at DDS. So I'll begin and she'll have an opportunity to talk more directly and introduce herself more directly later, but Deputy Commissioner Peter Mason retired, although he has come back to help us with our ARPA initiatives. But today with us on the meeting is my new Deputy Commissioner, Elisa Villardo. She's formerly the North Region Regional Director. And I'm gonna turn the mic over to her in just a little bit. But in each of the regions, we also have new regional leadership from when I last visited with some of you. And so I wanted to just briefly introduce Shannon O'Brien, a long-term fixture at DDS. Shannon, you want to come on and say hi? And just recently now, our regional director in the West region.
Thank you, Jordan. Well, I'm glad everybody's here with us tonight. I wanted to introduce myself. I'm the regional director now for the West region, started in July. My prior position was in the West region as the assistant regional director in our private division. My career started, I did some private work, a lot of work on women's issues, but ultimately ended up working at Southbury Training School many years ago as a summer worker, and it really became my passion. And I've stayed with the department 30+ years. I've had a variety of different roles. It's really great now to be a regional director, so I can make some changes that I was hoping to see all along, and I'm excited to be working with families. That's one area that I need to learn a little bit more about. We did some of that in the private sector, but individual and family support, respite, our family workers, that's an area that I need to gain some more experience in. So I've been trying to get out and about and meeting with families and learning more about that area. So I guess I will turn it back to you, Jordan.
Thank you, Shannon. And Shannon, including her own role as a private ARD, her prior role, has a couple of key positions she's in the process of refilling now. So we'll have more news about the West region. I wanted to share that our South region regional director, in case you're attending this and you're affiliated with the South region, Cress Secaroli, formerly our public director, but he is now our South region regional director. And Stacy Silva Gordon is our North region regional director. And joining us on the call today, and I really appreciate it, our new director, a regional director for public services, Patricia West, has joined the call. And if you're comfortable with just a wave, we can do that. Or do you want some mic time?
Just a few seconds. Hi, everyone. I'm Patricia West, the new regional director for the public division. I started my career many years ago in the private sector at Oak Hill School, and I've been with the department for about 22 years, and I'm pleased to be here. I'm responsible for the ICFs in the West region.
Yeah, thank you. And Patricia and I have been able to tour both of the public regional centers, the Northwest Center and Lower Fairfield, over the last couple of weeks. We've been able to tour those together. Very happy with the way those things, with the way those facilities look. and the supports people are getting. Things are going really well, and we're in good hands of public, and when we're in Patricia's hands. There's some other, and thank you for joining the call today. A couple other key positions that we have instituted is we have a director for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Dr. Cheryl Ellis joined our team, I'm going to guess a little over 6 months ago, and joined the organization, and she's helping us on a number of issues. Through the pandemic, we learned that other agencies have directors for strategic planning and emergency services, and boy, it would have been nice to have that position on board at the start of the pandemic. But for whatever emergencies come next, we have brought on a very experienced emergency services staff. His name is Jake Menke. He's not on the call, but he is a new and important staff to the organization. And also on the call with us tonight is our new ombudsperson. Some of you may know her from her former days at the Arc of Connecticut, but let me quickly introduce Shannon Giacovino. Shannon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shannon Giacovino, and as the commissioner said, I'm the new DDS ombudsperson. In addition to that, I am a family member, and I have about 30 years of experience working in community supports and in advocacy. My position is here for individuals and families the department serves. So if you have any issues, complaints, concerns, or questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm going to put my information in the chat for you to be able to do that.
Thank you, Shannon. She's also willing to take any compliments or positive things you see. She'd love to hear about those too, although I think most of her work is on the other side of that. But it's been a pleasure to have Shannon come join us in that role with all the experience and talents she brings to the table. So about a year ago, I spent some time doing more of a presentation style meeting, and we talked about planting seeds of change, knowing that we had to develop a new 5-year strategic plan, and that we would be being able to take advantage of this American Rescue Plan Act money, what we'll continue to refer to through the evening as ARPA funding. And then we're going to use that ARPA funding in a variety of ways. I think that Lisa will highlight some of the things that have already changed since the videos were put out. But it's a focus on what I think is the #1 issue in Connecticut and the nation is the direct care workforce crisis, the stability of our provider networks, the availability and ability to recruit staff in our self-determined services, promoting community integration, and trying to be as effective with our funding as we can to help reduce the waiting list. And there's a lot of things that it may look like as we develop these initiatives through the ARPA funding. But I want to be, so let me start by saying, that stabilization, increased access to respite, taking a look within public to see where we can provide very specialized supports that, particularly in light of the workforce crisis, are a struggle for our private providers, around palliative care, about extended respite, about individuals who've decompensated with their mental health issues and need stabilization, and a role that public can play for us going forward. The work will also be around assistive technology, remote supports. Today, the governor was in Torrington to talk about an important development for what we call, if you've heard me talk about it before, you may have heard me refer to I-dash housing. We now try and use the term mixed use affordable housing, but housing complex that will have a set aside number of units for people with intellectual disability, but affordable housing for a number of other people not related to the work we do. And so it may look like that, but I want to be clear as I'm meeting with you tonight that none of this work is intended to eliminate the use of group homes as part of our continuum of supports. I don't see a day in our future where DDS doesn't have a very large number of group homes, very similar to the way we look now, but there's room for other types of support within our service system. So this does not mean no group homes. This does not mean no more group homes. It doesn't mean that providers will be forced to close settings. That this is not about changing the system in a way that you should feel threatened or anxious or nervous. It also, unfortunately, doesn't mean that there'll be no more waiting lists. While we hope to be effective and efficient with the funding, it won't eliminate that. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over for a little bit to Deputy Commissioner Elisa Velardo. Allow her to introduce herself and give you a few other updates before we get into questions and answers. Elisa?
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elisa Velardo, and I'm the Deputy Commissioner of DDS. I've been with DDS for about 7 years now, and prior to my current role, I was the Regional Director in the North Region. And prior to that, spent many years, 25 years as the Executive Director of a private agency. So I've been in this field for many years. It's really good to see everyone today. Thank you for coming out for an evening meeting. I wanted to share just a little bit of information, some additional information that builds on some of the information that was shared in those videos. And one of those things is that DDS has been hosting a series of forums on the fourth Tuesday of every month. They're called the Fourth Tuesday Forums on Innovative Services. So they're really easy to remember because it's always on the same day of each month. They're held from 3 to 4:30, so they're an hour and a half. And each month we look at a different topic that is of interest, that may be an option that people want to learn more about. We started the series in July, and we've had forums on supportive housing that the commissioner was just talking about, assistive technology, individualized housing supports, and then we have some forums that are planned in the months ahead. So I'd like to invite you to join those forums if you're interested in any of the topics. We usually have 100 or more participants, family members, and the format each month is similar. We have somebody will introduce the topic. I'll welcome people. Somebody from DDS will introduce the topic. If there are colleagues from other state agencies we work with, like with the Supportive Housing Initiative, we work closely with the Department of Housing. We'll have folks from that department speak. We have providers that are providing the service talk about their philosophy and how they provide the service. But really, the most important part of these forums, and I think the part that resonates the most, is we have family members and individuals that are using those services in their day-to-day life that talk about their experience and how that service works for them. And they may demo, like last month was assistive technology. We had 2 individuals that gave a demonstration of how they use assistive technology in their own home. We've had people give tours of their apartments and talk about the supports that they have in place. And that really has resonated. It's one thing to hear from me or from a professional about what a service has to offer. It's a whole other experience to see it and hear directly from a person that's utilizing that service. So if you are interested, if you go to the DDS webpage on the front homepage, all the way down, you'll see Fourth Tuesday Forums. We have recordings of the forums that have taken place thus far. They're YouTube recordings, and it has the schedule and the link for upcoming forums. The only exception is in December, it'll be on the 3rd Tuesday, just because otherwise it would have been in the midst of the holiday week. Another update that I had that builds on the video is the work that we're doing in the area of employment. We've been working, I have had the pleasure of working with the Employment and Day Services team and implementing some of the recommendations that came out of an assessment that was conducted by the State Employment Leadership Network. We asked them to come in, kind of look at our service system and make recommendations around areas that we can strengthen our infrastructure to better support people who are interested in employment. And Trevor Rogers from the Employment and Day Services team is on tonight. if there are any particular questions in that area. So we continue to work closely with CELN. We have 6 subcommittees right now that are looking at different areas that were identified in the report. And we're in the process of initiating a 7th subcommittee on transportation. That is a topic that's come up a lot as we have these discussions around employment. And so we're going to dedicate a subcommittee specifically to look at how we can expand transportation opportunities. If anyone's interested and has really good ideas about expanding transportation, you can reach out, and we'd be happy to connect you with that committee. We just received the 3rd quarter report, the recommendations from each of the subcommittees that looks at each quarter they submit a report. Those recommendations have gone to the commissioner's office. We've provided feedback. So some of those early recommendations are in the process of being implemented. And then each quarter they issue some additional recommendations that build on that early work. And so it's a very dynamic process, and it's really exciting to be a part of. You'll hear a lot about customized employment. This is a service that is available for people who are interested in employment, but have not yet been successful in obtaining employment. So they might need a little extra support, and this is a structured process that is proven to be effective in supporting people to become employed. There's funding available for customized employment. And so if that sounds like something that would be of interest, you would reach out to your case manager, and they would connect with our employment and day services team, and we can help to facilitate that process. I guess last but not least, we just issued a notice of opportunity on innovative employment grants. That's available on our website, and it's available for individuals and their families, as well as providers that support people who may want to start their own business. Maybe they have an area that they're passionate about and would like to parlay that into some sort of a business. These employment grants provide some funding to help people to explore structuring their own business, and for those that are further along to actually put that into place. So that's available on our website as well. So those are the updates I have. And with that, I'll turn it back to the commissioner.
Thanks, Elisa. So those are the updates. Again, hopefully you've watched the video, although your questions don't have to be specific to that. The conversations were about, where to be as much as we can about moving the organization in a direction that broadens our continuum of supports and service array. So let me just a couple housekeeping notes. So there's a couple ways you can participate tonight. At the bottom of your screen or somewhere on your screen should be a little icon that's labeled reactions. If you hit that button, there should be a raise hand function. And if you raise your hand, we'll call on you. If you don't want to talk and you want to type, you can go to the chat function. It's another icon on your screen. And just type your question in there, and we'll read it aloud for everyone in case not everyone's monitoring the chat, and do our best to answer it. We may not have all your answers tonight, but regional leadership is on the call to follow up there. Any broader issues, we'll follow up on at CO if we can't answer your questions tonight. And once we call on you, there should also be a little button on your screen that looks like a microphone. You'll need to unmute yourself in order to talk. And if you're on the phone, I believe it's #6 to mute and unmute with Zoom, but I could be wrong. And Kevin will correct me. *6. Thank you, Kevin. So with that, I'll open the floor up for any questions you may have. Questions, comments, or concerns.
And I should also mention, if you can't figure out the raise hand function, if your camera's on, you could just raise your hand and we can probably see you.
Kel, it looked like you had your hand up. You are on mute.
Commissioner Frank's hand is up.
Yeah, Mr. Slagle, how are you today? Can you unmute yourself, Frank? And you can go first while we work with Raquel to get her unmuted.
I don't know if he's frozen.
Raquel, are you able to unmute?
Let me see if I can unmute her. I cannot.
There we go.
Okay, Raquel, you're unmuted.
I have nothing to add. I just want to know, are we going to get are we going to get a script, and are we going to get a script in the, of this meeting or not?
So the meeting itself is being recorded, and it'll be on our website, and everyone who participates joins the meetings. You don't have to participate. If you attend the meetings, you'll get follow-up emails. So there's a total of 6 of these meetings thus far planned. And at the end of those 6 meetings, we're going to put together some documents that talk about the broad
It's just that
themes.
I don't hear too well, and I have workers in the house, so.
I understand. Yes, the answer, the simple answer to your question is yes. We'll be able to get notes about the meetings to you.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome. Michael?
There we go. I managed to unmute. Look at that. Thank you. So, you know, I'm down here in Fairfield County in the West region, and I guess one of the big concerns down here, you know, as it is in a lot of places, is housing. And I know that there are, you know, the 8 I-dash units in various stages of development, and there's nothing down here. So, you know, one of the challenges with you know, this area, especially in Fairfield County, is that, you know, number one, housing prices are very, very high, and availability for affordable housing is very, very limited. And so how can, you know, if we're going to call it, you know, mixed use housing, how can we get access to more of that, to have more opportunities for individuals in this area of the state to take advantage of the program development? Because it looks wonderful, you know, to have a dwelling where with 40 units, where 10 are dedicated towards individuals with IDD, where an agency has an office in the housing complex in order to provide the supports. Looks like a wonderful opportunity. And I wish that there were more opportunities to take advantage of it in this area of the state.
I appreciate the question. So one thing I will tell you is there has been some limitation by local towns and local town ordinance. So if it may, you know, if you're finding that there's not affordable housing in your zip code, talking to the politicians that represent that zip code is what I'd recommend. Often it's not a decision, it's a decision made locally. And I don't want to throw any towns under the bus, so I'm going to try and be really careful.
I'll throw them under the bus. Don't worry about
it. But one of the things that's interesting about this housing, so at the towns where there's already a fair amount of affordable housing will struggle to bring these types of projects online because it's geared, it really is heavily geared towards towns that don't already have or have very limited affordable housing. But the stress behind it, because I think most towns would work very hard to have affordable housing for their elderly population and likely for their veterans. There are not a lot of, there are some towns, some municipalities that are less interested in other marginalized populations. And that's where some of that we run into. The beauty of these is it brings all those people together, as you articulated, in a community that has a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week presence. Even if the units aren't staffed directly, they may be, some of them may be, but there's a presence at the building at all times. So it reduces the risk of any sort of crime or any sort of nefarious actor in the building getting away with anything. It really does create a level of safety. And we didn't invent the model, but we took a really close look at work that Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services has done in projects in and around the greater Hartford area. And there really are some pretty tremendous, they're beautiful buildings. They're built with accessibility in mind. And so the way these projects start is typically a developer gets site control over a property and then may reach out to us to find a provider who would be willing to work with them. So as a, for instance, in one of the developments that's going on in the West Hartford area or in the greater West Hartford area, the developer found the location first, and then we assisted with trying to find a provider. In other instances, providers know there's a need and are looking at sites that might be appropriate and reaching out to a list of approved developers. But it's a multi-state agency partnership. The awards are made by Department of Housing, and I can tell you that a couple of the providers, and I'm not familiar with all of the geography of the western portion of the state, but a couple of providers are actively trying to figure out a way to bring that to their towns. And I don't want to get the cart in front of the horse, but we are hopeful that we will see some of those come online in the vicinity of Trumbull and that greater area, and maybe others in other parts of the western part of the state. I was thrilled that one of them could go up in Torrington, and hopefully that will cascade south along the New York Connecticut border, because I think there's a lot of opportunity for use of affordable housing, including, I think, one of the things that is pretty common in the West region is staff who would support people with intellectual disability can't find housing, so they end up having to commute a fair amount of distance to work in the field. And so that's another side of that coin is the need for affordable housing for staff as well. But do we have a list of the current ones under development, Elisa? And are any of them in the West region besides the Torrington development?
There's one, I think, going up in Orange, which is probably the closest.
Orange.
But I'm down here in Lower Fairfield County, and again, we have a heck of a time with staff because none of them can afford to live anywhere close. It's a question of how do we put all that together. And I know there's been some makeshift ones. There was the ableist one in Darien that had its own issues because it's not mixed housing, but it did provide 12 units for individuals. The question is, how do we get more creative if we can't get to the 20% limitation? Are there opportunities to be a little bit more flexible where we can?
So I can add, one of our ARPA initiatives is exactly that, expanding supportive housing. And we know that the supportive housing developments that we've had thus far have like a 3-year lead time from concept to ribbon cutting. And so we have a group that is looking at just what you indicated. Is there a way that we can expedite that? Maybe we have other models like clustered IHS. In fact, supportive housing uses the actual service that's in place is called clustered IHS. And that's where people live in close proximity and they share supports. And there's somebody available on the overnight. They're not necessarily in each apartment, but there's somebody there that is available if needed. And they tend to use technology to connect and to access assistance when they need it. And so we have a group right now that's looking at our ARPA initiative. There's funding to expand supportive housing and how we can do that and expedite that. And so there may be more news coming out in that area in the very near future.
And I think from participants, from a parent standpoint, I also, serve on the board of one of the agencies down here in our area. The more communication that we can get, I know as a parent, and I know one of the ARPA initiatives is a communication committee. But the more that we can expand information about programs on top of what's often a single paragraph on the DDS website, so parents understand what their options are, that would be fabulous.
So I definitely think we ought to be adding that. I did want to share that last year, agency communication was one of the issues brought up when I did these visits last year. We're the state, so we move slow. We're about to launch soon an ability to register your email with us, and we will then be able. The problem we've had is our current email lists are hand entered by our case managers most often. And people change their emails, and they're current, they're not current, whatever those issues may be. We'll have a space on the website where if you are willing to give us your email address, we will put you on routine, family communications, which will be part of that overall plan. But we are looking at standing up a whole communication strategy around this. But I do think, I think you make a good point that a better understanding of the current service array beyond just a paragraph on the website. And Kevin, I'm teeing this up for you, that maybe we do a second set of these where Krista and the private ARDs can sort of share all the different available service models and talk more in depth for families who want to understand the current continuum and how all these pieces fit together. May be something worth doing.
And Michael, I just wanted to add, I should mention I'm the communications director for DDS, but I should add that we do have currently, there is a email thing, sign up link on our website. It's on the bottom, and it's a link that you have to click on. It's not the most ideal thing, so we're kind of soft launching it right now until the IT staff fixes the bugs. Ideally, it's going to be on the front page of our website, but if you do want to go now, you can go. It's down on the bottom near on the front page near contact us, and it's a small link that says subscribe here for emails. But that we haven't announced it yet because we're still working on some kinks, but it's there. It's slowly there. So
Thank you for the question. So Frank, are you able to unmute? I see your hand is up. Try hitting the space bar maybe. There you go. You're unmuted.
Can you hear me? Good. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Jordan. Yeah, you had mentioned about the staffing issues, and other people have talked about that. And we're in the self-determination program right now, which has been overall pretty successful. We have good things to say about it. We've talked to Shannon and Fritz about that, but it's particularly acute because turnover, and we really don't have backup people because we have our son in just one setting. And we talked about 6 months ago about having maybe like a list of people that could fill in, maybe could be contacted on a backup basis. And the other piece that I've mentioned, and I mentioned to our case management, to Dory, about the guardian pay that we had during the COVID. And I understand the Medicaid waiver doesn't allow for it in Connecticut, but I wanted to bring up those two pieces here so that when people are out, that we have some resources to deal with the staffing.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm gonna, in a moment, I'll turn it over and see if Elisa can share more about the ARPA conversation. Currently, folks in self-determination families can utilize a website called Rewarding Work and try and find staff from there. But we heard last year, all the way through this year, that there's not a lot of staff, particularly in certain parts of the state like yours, that are signed up there, and it doesn't really get them very far. So it doesn't have a lot of utility. We're looking at enhancing that, and some of that may include having some of that backup. Before Elisa expands on that any further, with regards to families getting paid, so you used the right words. Guardians are one class of guardians, and biological parents are currently not allowed. I'm sorry, guardians are currently not allowed under Medicaid law. not just in Connecticut, but nationwide, outside of the health emergency, to be paid to provide supports to their children. There's a lot of conversation nationally, actually within the legislature, Congress and Senate, about maybe that needs to be changed. But more importantly, a couple other states have put themselves out there with waiver amendments to see if they can get Medicaid to approve a change there on their state. If that happens and it gains traction, Connecticut likes to lead a lot of the time. It was an area where there was some risk in trying to lead. So we're letting a couple other brave states sort of walk the plank in front of us, if you will. We're going to watch what happens there and what the acceptance is, and what sort of rules and guardrails are put in place. And I would follow suit. If they can get that approved, we would follow suit with the same sort of protections that are in place that those other states would have to put in place. We would look to replicate. So hopefully there's news on that over the course of the next year. We wouldn't wait for the multi-year waiver cycle. If it happens, we would look to amend our waivers, which is a lot of work for us, but we would do that pretty readily if the other states get passage and approval of the ability to do that. Lisa, did you have more to say on the rewarding work and what's going on there?
Yeah, a little bit more. And you explained it pretty well. We've had the system in place through rewarding work, but it's been a pretty bare bones system where you could go online and identify staff. Through our ARPA initiative, we were able to issue an RFP and select the best actual proposal came in from rewarding work to really bolster that website so that it should have far more capacity and really offer quite a bit more in terms of options when people who self-direct are looking for qualified staff. So that's underway. The contract is in the process right now of being finalized, and they're anticipating it probably won't be until the beginning of 2023 that new system, you'll start to see the differences in the website. But based on the proposal, it looks like it's going to be really enhanced and hopefully very helpful.
And let me just add on top of that, we're working internally and with partners on what can be done to credential staff so that every time they're hired at a different place that's already authorized by DDS, whether that's self-determination or through a private provider, that the trainings they've already done can carry with them. And so they don't have to be retrained every time somebody else hires them, because I know that's they've already had that basic training. So we're looking at sort of standardizing that sort of credential as part of some of our work, just so that staff can move more freely and provide supports in where they're needed, and not limited by the fact that agency ABC didn't specifically provide the CPR, so they can't work in agency ABC, even though it's a nationally recognized brand of CPR, that type of thing.
Specifically on the subject of like spot staffing, when you have obviously hiring staff is important. Rewarding work is certainly one resource there. We've had pretty good luck with Indeed doing that for anybody that's interested. But for spot staffing, where you really need to call in people to fill in certain shifts there, is there a resource being considered? I thought 6 months ago we were talking about doing something like that, where you have a list of qualified people that might be available on demand.
Yeah, I don't know where. Yes, we're talking about that. I'm going to have to get back to you as to where what table that conversation exists at. So we do have, we have a program that's very underutilized called Agency with Choice, which takes a portion of someone's funding and gives it to an agency and sort of takes the burden of some of those staffing situations and puts it on an agency instead of a family. There historically was one issue with that, and that was people didn't like to give up a chunk of their funding for an agency to do that most of the time. The second issue more currently with that is agencies who have been part of that program don't have enough staff that they have someone they can float out to you, to a self-determined family when that call comes in that says, Sally was supposed to be here 3 to 11 tonight, so my wife and I could do this, and now Sally's not coming. Can you send someone else? They just don't. The workforce crisis is bad enough that agencies don't have staff to send. But let me follow up with our self-determination directors and the regional directors and see, and the ARPA teams, and see if I can get more information on that. But it's an important point, right? That's, I think, one of the greatest. There's a lot of reasons that self-determination is great and works well for a lot of people. I think that what do you do when someone calls out sick is one of the hardest things to manage. So let me see if I can find out more and get back to you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's good to see you.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions for us tonight? I love the questions we got already. So I'm going to give it, while people may be thinking about asking a question. Lena Esposito, you don't need to come off mic, but I wanted to share that one of our partners in all of this work with you families is the Connecticut Family Support Network, and their commitment to attend all 6 of these sessions. I just wanted to recognize, Lena, that I saw you out there, and I appreciate you. I think this is your 2nd or 3rd of the 3. So good on you. And we appreciate that. It's another way we share information and help with the communication is through Connecticut Family Support Network. And I wanted to thank you for being here tonight.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Are
I'm so
there,
glad to be here.
yeah, it's great. Anybody else with questions tonight? So as I said, we're going to put together information following these meetings about the topics and issues discussed. We're going and we want to continue to update you on those conversations around system transformation that are happening around the state. So in some of that information, we will hopefully be able to sign you up for some sort of ongoing email communication. But all of this will be on our website, videos, past, present, and future. And I think, Kevin, I don't know that we have anything else for this evening.
Nope, that is it.
All right. So listen, I appreciate you coming to spend some time with us. You can find our emails if you have follow-up questions. If you didn't ask the question tonight and you think about it later, you know where to find us, and we'll make sure you have all of our contact information in a follow-up email shortly. Thank you all for attending. Look forward to your continued partnership with us. We can't do this alone. Thank you.
Thank you all.